Hey everybody, it's Jumbo, and I'm feeling pumped because I just got off a live stream playing Crusader Kings 3 Royal Court, the new update for Crusader Kings that is releasing tomorrow for free, and of course with an accompanying paid DLC by the same name, which introduces grandeur, feeding your amenities, holding lavish courts, or perhaps not so much, and a whole load of other features as well, right? Including court artifacts, weapons that you can yield, skulls that you can display when you invite your courtiers in, and a whole load of positions like this. And actually, I want to put this one right at the start because it's my absolute favorite, the Court Jester. How good! Take a look at that! They lose prestige, they lose hostile scheme power, they lose hostile scheme chance, and it costs you a little bit of money. It's hilarious. Imagine grabbing your worst enemy and forcing them to be a jester in your court. I couldn't think of anything more satisfying. In this video, I'm going to take you through my sort of thoughts, initial reflections and reviews of Crusader Kings 3, the new patch update that's coming out probably right now as you're watching this video, maybe only a few hours away if you're really early, but otherwise, the DLC is probably out. You're going to see footage throughout this whole video of new things, from little changes to big ones. Here, for example, you can see my fantastic marshal, and some new abilities among the courtiers, particularly the steward there, right? With those different culture interactions, because of course cultural changes were a big part of the Royal Court DLC. In particular, everybody will be interested in the traditions, so I'll show you those in a minute, but they're also accompanied by a suite of other changes that enable you to display these wonderful artifacts in your court and hopefully build a culture around them. But before that, this is the inventory system. Again, something that every player will be getting. You can see you have crown, weapon, armor, regular slots, and a whole load of trinkets you can equip as well. They will, of course, give you all sorts of different benefits, right? The weapon, fairly self-explanatory, but also a lot of opportunity to gain piety and prestige. Don't forget there as well with the special Antiquarian promotion within your court. You can also hire somebody to reduce the decay of your artifacts, among other things, keeping them alive and hopefully ensuring they're not stolen, because that's one of the other big things about these artifacts. Even if you're wielding a sword or displaying some jewels in your court, you might just lose them along the way. Take note of some interesting interactions with characters as well that have been introduced. For example, you could learn the language of your queen, although in this case I ended up divorcing this one. That's of course not a new feature, but I think it's one of the things that's important to remember about Crusader Kings is that all of these elements are being added into a world that is already incredulously deep, wonderful, filled with drama and intrigue. And so when you're going through this video and listening to my sort of reactions and reviews, maybe the best way to put it, keep that in mind. Now, speaking of the court positions, I want to move to those next. There's an important feature here called aptitude, and that basically determines how good a character is at a certain position. From terrible to excellent, a character's aptitude level will decide the bonuses that you get. So if they're better at the job, you will do better. For example, a renowned physical character will be better as a bodyguard. Take a look at some of the positions over on the right-hand side of the screen. You can see, obviously as I go through, I'm looking at these characters in the middle and checking out their aptitude. Now, most of these ones are poor or terrible, but I'm looking for a court physician in this case. And don't forget, we could always do that. What's changed really are the things on the right. Now everybody has their aptitude score, and that's related to these positions. The court physician is still there. It hasn't changed. You can send out your little thing, find two people, one of them will be good, one of them will be bad, or you can kick them both out. However, that's just the event, right? We also have all of these roles introduced, and in my opinion, they're pretty fun. Now, the first ones there are the Antiquarian and the Master of the Horse. Fairly self-explanatory, except for the Antiquarian, of course, who is entirely unique, but you should have a better feeling of them from what I've already discussed. The Master of the Horse increases your knight effectiveness by up to 8% based on their aptitude. That's pretty damn good going when you consider that your knights are, of course, your best boys. There are some other more interesting ones, though. Of course, there's essentially a control growth position. I like to think of that as the sheriff. You can call them what you will. The cupbearer is another really fascinating one alongside the jester. They're probably actually my two favorites. As I touched on at the start, the court jester is amazing because you can just put somebody you hate into it, so long as their highest held title is appropriate, as long as your highest held title is appropriate, at least the duchy rank, and you'll be able to basically just really embarrass really, really embarrass them. I think that's hilarious. When, of course, you're holding your court, because one of the big things about Royal Court is actually holding the court. There were some beautiful photos of it. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the rest of this video, but I do just want to finish off on these positions. The cupbearer is a really fascinating one because it stops poisonous murder schemes. But don't forget this warning, which confused me a little bit. It's basically just saying, hey, this person will also have a really good chance at doing the same to you, i.e. they could be a powerful agent in hostile schemes against you. So be careful with this one. It's not just embarrassing a jester, it's actually all about the cupbearer, about this person who keeps you safe but could potentially flip it on its head. You'll see that all of these positions as well, by the way, in the top right of them have a small cost. Take that into account. You can't just fill your court full of people because you might just go bankrupt in the process. Speaking of going bankrupt in the process, this is a process that's a little bit more detailed and definitely happens over a much longer period of time, and that is the culture system. Now, the culture system has always been in Crusader Kings, so this free update doesn't really add a new system as so much as it does completely revolutionize an existing one. If you've got the paid update, you will have the full suite of changes that are coming to cultures in the Crusader Kings Royal Court DLC. Of note, basically, it's that ability to have dynamic hybrid cultures and really bleeding them together with the different pillars that you can select as well. Think back to how we could study our wife's language and then think about what that could look like when we enable cultural pillars of architecture, of language, and all of those things that combine with these traditions that you just witnessed to build a more dynamic cultural system. On the back of it, of course, overlaying, you have everything we've already talked about, the inventory, the aptitude, and hosting the actual royal court, and of course the sort of grandiose, the grandeur that it carries. That is the big paid addition into this update, the royal court. On the right-hand side of your screen, underneath your decisions, your factions, and your intrigue, you'll have the royal court button. Hit that, and you'll be able to summon your courtiers to the court where you'll have a whole load of interesting interactions. Now, I can't fully comment on those now because I haven't had enough time to test it, and I don't want to come out here showing you footage and saying things that aren't true or accurate. So what I'm going to do now is go away, spend a bit of time, and work on my full review for Crusader Kings. These, of course, have been my initial reactions. So what's my verdict then? How do I initially feel after playing this free update, and do I think it's worth pursuing the paid DLC? In a nutshell, and again, of course, it is very early to say. I haven't had early access for a long time, but I'm grateful to Paradox for giving me early access to this review version. In a nutshell, I think this is going to be a very good DLC. The free update alone is great. Paid content though, oh baby, we're going to be stealing artifacts all day. Do subscribe for more. I'll be live streaming tomorrow, and I'll see you then.